Hopefully now you can hear me. Hopefully that's working. Okay. Okay, so there's a little bit of a problem with the NVIDIA output, which is fine. We can manage. Excuse the noise. I'm just moving you around. So a lot of the noise cancelling stuff at the moment likely won't work. But, I'll just have a muck around with it whilst we are playing, and hopefully that will fix it. Give me 2 seconds and more crisp sound will be on the way. Hello? Cool. That seems to be much better. Good evening all. Good to see you all. Welcome in to Sloth, Space Saga, Socially Confused, Ray Lauderbeck, Star Stuff, Notorious. Good to see you all. And everyone else who hasn't yet said anything, welcome in. You're more than welcome to lurk, of course, although this works a whole lot better if we're all chatting to each other and having a conversation and all that. I'm just going to try with a little bit of background music, and then I am going to sort myself out a drink, because after this week, I deserve it. Maybe there's a little bit of noise there. I just want to be a bit careful because it's the Art Corp, because all of a sudden it gets loud. There's that. This. There you go. Suddenly gets loud. There we are. So, welcome in. Pleased to see everyone. Slightly different light setup today, so if I'm constantly wiping my eyes, it's because I've got a light there. I don't think it's going to work now on reflection. Tested it a couple days ago. It was like, that'll be fine. And then, yeah, not so much. And the last thing I want to do is kind of blind myself the whole time. But I hope you're all doing well. It's been an interesting couple of days for me in Star Citizen, and whilst we're all kind of sat around and waiting for Fleet Week to kick off, because that seems to be, you know, that's going to be the next big thing. Yeah, we'll wait to see what happens. You know, I've actually been playing quite a bit, and it all started off, it's all your fault. Everyone in here, it's your fault, because last stream we did something slightly longer. We went down to the Hatheror mining locations, and that was really cool. But has anyone been testing PTU this week? And if so, how have they found it? Just while I sort myself out with a drink, I thought I'll throw a message open to you guys. I'm just going to... Bit of a glass snob. I like to make sure I clean all the watermarks off the glass. So, having just run it under the tap. Space Saga House, how you found it, Jadama? Was it good? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be calling you now. Stress test is interesting. Why is that socially? What did you find interesting about it? I take it by interesting you mean it's showing up some problems. So, just while you guys are answering that, today's drink of choice, I've actually gone a bit posh, drinking a nice red this evening. So we've gone for a Jamshed Shiraz. I don't get paid for any of this, but if Jamshed want to sponsor me, if Stoford want to sponsor me, you'd all be more than welcome, of course. But yeah, cheers all. Here's to what has been one hell of a week, going into yet another week. But after that, I will have the week off, which is kind of exciting because it's the start of Fleet Week. So maybe some live streams as things happen. Let me know what you think. If people would like kind of live streams as things happen, or maybe a little bit into the evening, kind of a bit closer to this time so they can tune in, let me know. I'll be off for the week, so I get to do pretty much what I want, which I'm not going to lie, for most of the week we'll be sleeping, but, you know, we'll get there in the end. So, cheers all. Here's to you. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it as always. Hundreds of people on the Idris. Yes, of course, because the Idris is going to be appearing at Area 18. I think, does it do a bit of a flight as well? Do you get to go and fly around on it? Is that that's the intent, right? It was pretty good in comparison to the Polaris stress test, says Space Saga. I've had one sip and I'm drunk. I only had one 30k for me. Frames went down to 11 FPS on the Idris, though. Interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, there's been a little bit of stuff going on and whatnot, but, Yeah, so that's really interesting. Obviously, the Fleet Week stuff is all going to be... God, it's really white out, isn't it, stuff? I don't know why. It's like it's, hey, you haven't been out in the sun. It's like I'm being called out. Maybe if I do this. Does this work? Maybe if I... Sorry, I'm reaching for the wrong button. Try not to knock my glass over at the same time. Now it's really dark, and now I just look like I live in a hole in the ground, right? Like a hobbit. Basically, I broke the base to one of the stands that I have, and it's not gone great, but maybe if I move this bit, just get that out of the way slightly, turn that light back on and use that more as a filter or a diffuser in that light. Maybe that works. I don't know. Maybe I'll just kind of duck down a bit and that'll help too, right? There we go. That's somewhat better. Somewhat better. Feel like I'm doing exercises. Good. Cool. Okay. So yeah, one of the things I guess I wanted to talk about this week, it's the thumbnail. Or sorry, it's the title of the video. And it's also part of the thumbnail, which is something I wasn't expecting to happen quite as quick with the focus on stability and bug fixes and just getting little bits out. Having done the Hatheror stuff with you guys on the Sunday, what I then did was I went to work during the week's been crazy. I've been putting in kind of 12-hour days, so there's not left a lot of time for playing. But coming up to Friday and knowing that, I was going to have the weekend to do stuff, something that's happened that's not happened in a long time with Star Citizen is I was thinking about the game. And I often think about it from like content creation, getting videos out for you guys and that sort of stuff. But I don't often sit there just thinking about playing it. And that happened this time round. So I was thinking about going back to Hatheror, and that's what we did on Friday Night Ops, which we think, and thanks to Jamlack for this one, I think we're going to rename it Friday Night Shenanigans, just because I don't feel like they're quite at the quality to be called Ops yet. So Friday Night Shenanigans, that might be quite a bit more fun. Because, yeah, we had crashing into the ground, we had all sorts of fun. We had the Reclaimer as the evac ship for some reason. We had people, crashing dragonflies into stuff and all sorts of good fun. But running around, getting the blue cards to get access to the areas with red key cards that then got us access to the, the blades and stuff was really quite enjoyable, and feeling like there was a little bit more to do than just go here, shoot this, win sort of stuff. Add to that the random kind of PvP encounters that happened throughout, and then the going up to the orbital laser platform, fighting through that, which is quite stressful in and of itself. Luckily enough, I wasn't involved in that fight, but I heard the voice comms for the people that were, and that sounded terrifying. So yeah, that was an interesting thing. Hello, Star Stuff. Good to see you, my friend. And hello, Timbal. Greetings in Orlando. Awesome. Good. Welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, so that was really interesting. And kind of over the weekend, I've been getting involved in a little bit more, which I was just going there. And whilst I don't like the fact that, we keep our armor and you can't loot that off other people and all that sort of stuff, that it reduces, again, the risk of you doing anything in the game. That doesn't mean that it's not just easier. The whole arming up stuff is a lot quicker when you can find all your armor and it's all good to go, and, until they bring in loadout buttons, and then it doesn't matter. Because, the armor stuff is so cheap anyway. The only time there should be any real challenge in using the armor is when you get the stuff that is rare, and not just the subscriber flare. I'm talking about like the Antium stuff you can find down at Hatheror. I'm talking about the stuff you can gain from Wicklow, subscriber flare too, but we all know everyone's going to get that back eventually because you paid for it. So there's that. Ninja, Stunner, Mornstar, Avi, good to see you all in. Welcome in. Pleased to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. We're just talking about Berserker helmets. Yeah, Judomo, I might take us into the game a little later and we'll have a look at that. I'm told the Berserker helmet is very, very rare. Found one. Found one at Hatheror. So, yeah, I know everyone's going to start screaming streamer privilege at me. That's not what it was, but that's how it ended up. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So that was really good fun. And then I got involved in doing some of the gathering stuff. So I picked up the very first mission for Wicklow, which is like the 3 Tundra Copian Horn, and the he wanted a burrito and a can of pop, so that's what he got. That was good fun. But the other thing that I discovered, and I know you're all going to scream at me for not knowing this, was the fact that you can now pick up creatures with your scanner, which is really, really cool. I'm actually quite a fan of that. I like it a lot, and that's really helped finding Tundra Copian, because they're not where you'd think they'd be, and none of the guides are particularly that helpful either. But long story short, when they first said that it was going to be this, that we were going to have bug fixes, stability, and content within the confines of the systems that we already have, I made the comment to you guys, you know, if they could just make it more stable, I'd play this game an awful lot. But the thing is, we've never had a really, really stable client. So I was hoping that's the case, and I believed that to be the case. But there's always the little nagging voice of doubt in the back of your mind going, maybe I don't. You know? Maybe I feel like it's a bit that I'm going to play it a lot, but actually maybe the problems run a little bit deeper than that. The good news is that now, here's what's happened. For reasons I'm struggling to put my finger on, I'm more excited to play it and want to play it than any point I would suggest in the last 18 months. That includes the release of Pyro. I kind of knew that I was going to get involved in Pyro. I enjoyed doing the asteroid bases for a while. That's probably the other time I've been really excited to kind of get in with people and start enjoying it. Soriak, good evening, my friend. Good to see you. Notorious, hello, buddy. So yeah, there's been some really kind of interesting, some interesting things. Sorry, that shouldn't have come through. This is what happens when my bloody mixer software stopped working. You shouldn't have heard that. I do apologise. I've fixed it now, but you got a blast of random music that you didn't need. So there, enjoy. Sorry about that. For anyone's eardrums that have just been blown. All I'm going to do very quickly, for Star Stuff, who's in here, Star Stuff streams over on the Intergalactic Tea House. It would be awesome to see you there. So there's the link. And Notorious, I will also link your stuff a little later on, just so I'm not spamming links the whole time. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. Very, very chill. And if you happen to be a tea drinker, it drops huge amounts of knowledge about teas that you might want to try as well. Which, of course, being a Brit, you know, that's what we invaded half the world for, right? Controversial stuff. So yeah, that's the bit. I think this is what I meant about doing the impossible, is that for a long time I've not really been thinking, oh my god, I really need to play the game, I really need to get in, I really need to enjoy it, because that's just not been true, right? I go in and I play as much as I can to stay up to date with things and keep the development going on. But much like I've said to you guys loads and loads of times before, if you're not enjoying it, give it a break. And I want to keep up with it for the content, and I want to keep an eye on, as soon as it's fun, jumping back in. But for reasons, like I say, that I cannot put my finger on, all of a sudden I'm really enjoying it. And it's drawn me back in, and I'm playing those games, and I was expecting the ground alignment stations, planetary alignment facilities, whatever you want to call them. I was expecting them to be a bit more murder hobo. Now, maybe they are lots more murder hobo than they currently are. We're just lucky because half the people are overplaying PTU. So those of us left behind are doing okay. But we've picked up now enough batteries and blades to basically go and fire the laser without having to collect anything else other than the key card from the station that allows the activation of the laser itself from the bunker. So we'll see. Depends on if you're a Daymar or Aberdeen, says Sloth. Which one's more murder hobo? Because I've been doing the Atritus one, or Tritus, Atritus, whatever you want to call it, on Daymar. So Daymar tends to be a bit more chaotic. Yeah. So I might have got a bit murder hobo. I didn't record it, but whoever it was that I killed, sorry. I thought I was engaging NPCs because whoever this player was came in behind the NPC. I was engaging just through a doorway, saw something move, opened fire, got an aggravated assault stat, realised that I was fighting against a player, and then went to loop around I was upstairs on the inside of the antenna building. Ran outside to loop around and see if I could catch them coming up and go up behind them. And as I did, there'd been a Pisces parked outside for a long old time. They were trying to drag a large component in there, and I might have a little bit murdered them running in. I recognised they had a tractor beam out, so I'm not saying it was skillful by any stretch of the imagination. The problem is with so many things in PvP, and if you do any, you'll know, finding out where they are and what they're up to are like two of the most challenging things. If you can do that, and the answer to both of those is not shooting and killing me, then you've effectively got the drop on them, or you can at least engage them in something of a fair fight on the ground in FPS. And that's where I was. Had the custodian out, lit him up, killed him. Yeah. So apologies for that, but thanks for the medical, Pisces, because I had 2 tier 3s. So appreciate that bit, and the oxygen refill as well, because that's the other annoying thing at the moment. Oxypens don't work. So I got down to about 16% oxygen and fired the oxypen off, and nothing happened. I had 4 of them. Nothing happened on all 4, so that was annoying. Can batteries be stored in our hangars? Socially, I believe they can. So Star Stuff has them. He was our evac pilot on Friday. Star Stuff has taken them off. So Star Stuff might be able to answer the question as to whether or not he's checked they're actually in there. But I believe they can be stored in the freight elevator. You just can't stack them. So that. I hope so, says Star Stuff. Might be worth checking for science, Star Stuff. But only if you've got the time, mate. If you're doing something else, I get it completely. But if you've got the time, it might just be worth checking. Because if not, then... we'll do something else. But yeah, there's that. So yeah, we'll see. We shall see. So it fills me full of confidence, right? There's been a lot of talk, more so amongst other creators and other parts of the community, about Star Citizen's not going in a direction that I want. And I must admit, there are parts of this now that I never anticipated when we first looked at this. So when I first looked at backing, is what I mean by when I looked at this. So when I looked at backing, they said crafting was unlikely. Which is that. There was nothing about base building. And then, I suppose there was the Pioneer stuff, but not to this extent, right? It wasn't going to be this sort of stuff. So, yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's going in these directions. We're talking about these stations. There seems to be kind of a move. All the talk about the more technical areas like Quanta, that's dried up. That's not to mean that that's not happening. It just means that they've stopped talking about it for a while. So it's very easy to get this impression that they're going on in a direction that you don't want. I must admit, I got into this because I want a little bit more complex gameplay. The thing that I'm really after is exactly what I got at Hatheror, which is why I'm really so excited about that and everything else that's coming down the pike, which is, I want gameplay to feed on from itself. So I went down there expecting to go and loot a crate, find something, and that's then the loot. Because I hadn't really looked at Hatheror, because I wanted to go and do it for myself. Hey Richard, good to see you, my friend. In Texas. Well, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. Can confirm I'm in possession of 4 batteries at Seraphim. Star stuff, that is great news. Really pleased. You know, and all of a sudden to go there and go, well, okay, there's some loot containers here. That's exciting. I haven't seen these armored loot or these different types of loot containers apart from the remote asteroid bases. This is cool. And then it was, okay, there are keycard machines just like there are at to get into the contested zones in Pyro. That's cool. And then you discover there's 2 of them. Okay, so this is sequential. I've got to use the blue to access the areas for the red in most cases. And then I've got to use the red to access the areas to get the blades down. And I know it's really, really simple. And in other games, this is stock. But these are the really, you know, this and the contested zones are the first examples that we're seeing of this. So we've got the hidden puzzles and everything else that go with the remote asteroid bases. Then you've got the contested zones needing key cards and that to go and get all these other areas, and then you go off to other areas of the map, the remote asteroid bases, to pick up the ships that you've got. It's really cool seeing this stuff, and that's more than what I'm after. What I don't want to do is go to landing zone, speak to person, fly off, go to do a mission, come back to landing zone, speak to another person, fly off, do a mission. Like, that's... I know I mentioned Warcraft a lot, but that's what it reminds me of. You know, you find the next village, you get a bunch of quests, you run off, you come back, you hand them all in, you get the next bunch of quests, they're all in an area. That was fine for Warcraft. For a space game, with the huge volume of gameplay area available that Star Citizen has, an unprecedented level of gameplay area that is going to increase 5 times over by 1.0, that's just not sensible design. And it's really interesting where they're talking about the idea of NPCs interacting with them again. It's great to meet people like Twitch Pacheco and, you know, Clovis Darnley and I forget his name, the one that gives the Idris mission, him in the bar. It's interesting to go meet these people face to face like once. That's great, but we've got these video comms and this ability to go to a location and have things also happen organically. Like with Stararchitect, go to an area that's like mining or a research kind of outpost, and you find this bit over here, and then there's something else over there, and then there's something else over there, and in one of them you find a map and it gives you a general layout, so now you know kind of that there are other outposts to find, and whatever way that looks, however that looks, obviously the map bit's me guessing, but, you know, that's like, we'll go and find it. It would be like the excitement of you just flying around on the surface of a planet and completely randomly coming across, like, a derelict outpost or something like that, when you don't know where that location is, and you just land and explore, and kill whoever's there, obviously, for the enjoyment of exploring and discovery and all that sort of stuff. And that was really awakened again with Hatheror. So I'm looking forward to getting that back. So yeah. You're already in a living universe. Yeah, possibly. Got into this to be in a living universe, yeah, absolutely. Essential Asa, hello buddy. How you doing? Yeah, exactly that, Asa. That's exactly it. And that's what I discovered at the Hatheror location. And okay, it was all in one location, but all of a sudden it's like, right, now I have a reason to search these buildings over and above just, oh look, a crate, what's in it? Oh look, a crate, what's in it? Oh look, a crate. It's like the, oh, piece of candy, oh, piece of candy, oh, piece of candy, except you never knew what the candy was and it was often crap. This now, I've got almost a complete Antium set. I'm just lacking like the chest armor. Didn't get round to doing that today because I got caught up in the Ryari research missions. finding Copian, the Tundra Copian, not the Forest Copian, Tundra Copian, finding Marrocks, doing all that sort of stuff that I kind of... I found some of the Forest Copian stuff, but I also found some of the Marek spawns, killed those, guessing that the gems would be useful later on, and blow me down if they weren't for the Ryari stuff. Because I knew it was for Wicklow, because it says it on like the floaty posters and stuff. So yeah, that was kind of really good fun, and I think, you know, encountering that sort of stuff and experiencing it has been really good fun. I wish outposts were more varied, or at least more believable, says Asa. Yeah, exactly that. And that's hopefully whenever Starkitect lands, that's the intent, is that they'll have clusters of like the outposts in this area, a mining facility, and they'll look like there's some sort of purpose to them. And, you know, in this area it's more residential, in this area it's agricultural, and that, you know, sort of stuff. And that would be great to see that. You know, knowing that you've come across a certain location. I think they're taking so many small steps in the right direction. Things like now, even engaging on the old outposts, the loot tables have changed. So now you're not just like, oh look, that's the guy that carries the C-54, that's the guy that carries the FS-9, that's the guy that carries the Custodian. Certainly the armoured guys are now becoming a lot more, you know, kind of easily... So I'm just going to knock the background music up so you got something. But those guys are taking a lot more, you know, they're becoming a lot more interesting. It's such a simple thing. A randomized loot table, a randomized loot table, rather than a set one. But that stuff is so much better than what we have now, or what we had. To see that, to think that there's, if you want to, there's actually a point to checking the weapons, because they have different attachments on them, and that sort of stuff. Being able to go out and do this sort of zero to hero, self-sustaining gameplay, because you go out and you've got one big loadout and you go and do a bunch of bunkers, or you go and do a bunch of missions and whatever else, and as you kill them you pick up another weapon, you put it in your backpack, and then you put it in the weapon rack on board. You pick up a bunch for ammo for it, and then you put that in your storage. And then you run out of ammo for the gun you brought with you, so that goes in the weapon rack. You take the new one out, you change the attachments over, or hopefully you've got attachments enough for both. You pull out that stack of ammo, you collect ammo for the other weapons that you've got, and so on, and so on, and so on. There's so much more reason now to go out and do stuff. What I don't want to do, and one of the things that's kind of bothered me about the Hatheror thing, is... that at the moment we seem so tied to stations and major landing zones. And yes, that's, you know, that's always going to be the case. You're always going to have to come back to civilization, you know, to rearm, repair, refuel, that sort of stuff until that comes into the game. But it's so quick right now. Like, so one of the things that we tried with Hatheror is I decided to land about 40k out, jump on a dragonfly, and then fly up to... sorry, I'm just checking what the music is, because this isn't interesting. Okay. I mean, I'm going to get copyright... Not copyright. I'm going to get a copyright angry about this one. But I don't care, because the stream isn't monetized anyway. That's why you guys are not getting ads. Ta-da! So... we landed about 40k out, jumped on the dragonfly, or jumped on the Pulse was the first one. Drove over there. So I was like, hey, the hover bikes only get picked up like 400 meters out. So I'm able to get there. Most things won't be able to see me. I'll park up near a ridge. I'll use a sniper. I'll counter snipe and make sure there's nothing else on the other ridges. And then I'll head down in and we'll see how that goes. And that was really good fun. The problem is those bikes run out of fuel so quickly that you need to, you know, kind of operate in very close proximity to your ship so that you can put them back on and go and get them refueled. Which is not the point of them. The whole point is you can land and then do extended range stuff. If I wanted to stay close to my ship, I'd just stay on foot. Right? So the how quickly we ran through fuel on those bikes was ridiculous. We were almost at 50% just going 40 kilometers, which is bonkers. You know, it was a few minutes of flight, and we were almost halfway through its fuel. And I don't know if that's what's intended, but that's what's happened. And if that's the case, if that's what is intended, that's not great. Long-range chips on hover bikes, says Stunner, an SC minigame all in itself. 100%. And this brings me on really nicely to the other thing that we were talking about this morning, and I've been thinking about for a while, is I know we when they launch new ships, it's like, oh my god, just another landing ship, just another gunship, oh my god, another hover bike, we don't need another hover bike, that sort of stuff. What I've actually really appreciated with Hatheror, where you have objectives, you know what it is you're supposed to do, you know you're supposed to pick up batteries, you know you're supposed to get in and out, you might need medic kit, you'll definitely need spare kit, you know, someone's going to need to come down with a sniper to cover you, you know, someone might want to bring a railgun or a missile launcher, something like that, you know, to help while you're on the ground. There are so many choices in all the ships that we have. And you know what was the other thing that was interesting? Do you know what ship never featured as an answer to the to what we should take to do planetary alignment facilities? Polaris. Polaris was never mentioned once. So all this argument that when it first came out of, oh my god, the Polaris is going to be the be-all and end-all, and it wasn't. You know, the idea that the Polaris was going to be the meta ship for everything, because the idea of landing with that thing and then having to get out and do the ground fighty stuff and then get back in and then do that 2 more times at the other planetary alignment facilities, the amount of attention that thing draws in terms of how far away you can detect it, how close you can get without it detecting you, that was a really interesting kind of place to be in, right? That was just that was really cool, because that seemed to be the concern of everyone. Oh, Polaris is going to be meta, Polaris is going to be meta. It was never once considered. It was too big. Just too big. Even if you land it 40k from 50k from the planetary alignment facility, it's too easy to spot at a distance, even powered down. It's just so easy to spot. And then people are waiting for you when you come back. Too much power, too much heat essentially. Absolutely that. Absolutely that. Hey Dale, watching Super Mac Brother recently, and he was struggling with fuel levels on the Pulse and Poro, but it just kept going after empty, never refueled. Interesting. I'll bear that in mind. Is that the intent? Hey SA, good to see you, buddy. Welcome in, my friend. It's been a while, bud. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, maybe the answer is Razor. Yep. So I know you guys were having some luck with the Razor. What I really like about the Dragonflies is they suit so many purposes. So 400 meter-ish detection range, being able to put them out, use them in space to go and close, and then basically when you take over the orbital laser platform, fire the laser, you can just jump on the Dragonflies and fly straight down to the planet, which is really cool. So you just EVA to wherever you've left them, drop down. And people are really going to have to be on it to keep tracking you, because especially where you have control in space and stuff, and you've got the whole 6 degrees of freedom thing. Yeah, they were really good fun. And I think that's what has stood out as really cool about all these ships that we have, is there are so many choices now. You know, we talked about using a Valkyrie to get the Valkyrie down, to get the vehicles out the back, you know, like the Dragonflies and stuff. Because Dragonflies, of course, you can put 2 people on a Dragonfly. You know, it was the idea of maybe we go in force and we actually do some sort of, you know, we actually take it over. So we take a bunch of fighters and then we take something that's big enough for the batteries, but small enough to still be nimble and get away if we need it to. And there were just so many options to go through. You know, maybe take a Hammerhead, fully crew a Hammerhead out, and so many options. It was really, really cool. Yeah, exactly. I like the battery idea. Whoever that said socially said that the idea of batteries for the hover vehicles instead of hydrogen fuel, so you can swap them out and recharge and stuff. Absolutely, that would be really really cool. So yeah, fitting a pulse in a Vanguard. Lol. Yeah, the pulse. That worked all right, Senna. That happened. I tried I put the pulse in the medical Pisces. It fits in the medical space, but when I quantumed, it disappeared out the back. And yes, I had the hatch shut before anyone asks. But yeah, so there's that. But there's so many options for it. What about medical? You know, do you take a medical nurser to be closer? What about the ammo and stuff that you can take? What about, you know, the armor question's kind of gone away, but the ammo hasn't. So what about ammo counts and all that sort of stuff? It's been really, really interesting to go through all that and kind of, you know, select those sorts of ships for the missions and all that. It's been really cool. Really, really cool. 2 seconds, I just know that somewhere down here we go. I just know I've got to remove some of these, but oh, okay. We'll get there in the end, I figure. Okay, cool. Major star stuff in his hammerhead, fears no Starlancer. Yep, the Starlancer tried to ram the hammerhead that star stuff was flying and figured out that that wasn't a good idea because now it's all about mass and you ain't winning that fight. So yeah, that was, you know, screw them for using crappy tactics. Yeah. I think that's just the point, right? Is the whole point of those vehicles is being able to travel remote from your ship. So that's kind of key. Okay, so ramming is boring so socially. It really is. It's just it's a crap way of engaging. It's a crap way of you know, being involved in gameplay and all that sort of stuff. You've got some sound because I just want to go through behind the ships with you guys. Let's have a quick look at the Starlancer Tac. I know you guys have probably seen this already. If you haven't, hey, first time. If you have, then bear with us because we'll do a bit of a react and go through and talk about some stuff. But let's take a look. Ta-da!
The Starlancer Tac is a variant of the Starlancer series. It kind of takes the Starlancer chassis and outfits it with a more offensive loadout. It's got remote turrets on top. The co-pilot's got some fun little missile turrets at the rear to keep people off the back end. You don't have access to every single gun on it. There's only 4 pilot-controlled guns. You'll notice immediately from the exterior that it has these new 2 twin size 5 man turrets.
What makes this MISC is the shape language that was used to make this turret. It replicates the exterior of the ship, which contains round forms, welded forms, and chunky shapes.
Yeah, they're interesting.
MISC as a manufacturer are kind of really proud of their manufacturing and they're not afraid to show it. You can kind of see all the compound forms that reveal the underlying structure, where the fuel cells are, but it's a little more refined. Paneling is a lot cleaner. It's not something like a Drake ship where everything's just completely exposed. I really like the MISC look. It's got this sort of darker stealth armor, so it looks really like sleek. The guys have done a really great job with the lighting on it. It's got this like really mean looking red lighting. It just looks really sick. It does not have a cargo lift, but it still has your cargo bay in the back for 96 SCU and space for hauling ground vehicles. And you also have the addition of a hangar up top. There were a lot of requests for a version that could carry a ship, so I'm glad we've managed to figure that out.
It can accommodate 1 Fury, but if you are a good pilot, you can accommodate 2 as well.
What we've done is we've stripped out the Max's separate habitation rooms and replaced those with the hangar.
It's not that much big, but it's compact. It has a landing pad there with really cool small refueling parts.
We've extended the Max's habitation kitchen area to have its own bunk room. On the lower deck, we've replaced the long cargo bridge sort of area with a troop deployment area where some soldiers can jump out of like an extending gantry.
Oh, that's cool.
And between that and the cargo bay is a small medical room.
No
Nice.
other MISC ships has a medical bay, so it was a bit hard at the first to get used to it, like how the design will be.
Hey, Wota.
What I feel the people will notice most will be the aesthetic of it. These bright lights and those metal floors. It's a bit high-tech, but it's not like very high maintenance.
The engineering and the cockpit are the same as the Max.
And in the cockpit, it's very spacious. It's accommodate pilot, co-pilot. It looks really cool because it's integrated with the bridge.
The turret room is located in the belly of the ship. At first glance, it resembles a shrine to warfare, with all the red lights around the ammunition and the turret.
Interesting.
Seats on the left and the right.
Shrine to
It looks really
warfare.
cool. The animations are really cool, from the hatch closing over the player to the seat rotating
Oh, yeah.
and going into the turret.
That's
and the
awesome.
guns
I love that
sliding
hatch. That's
in preparation for
great.
battle.
The Starlancer would be for like teams of players who really like missions in a large group of like soldiers.
Hey,
As well as,
Christian.
like,
Good
the
to
actual
see.
people crewing the ship and the turrets, you've got quite a lot of space for ground pounders with rifles. The cargo bay in the back can be used for like some of the smaller vehicles like the Cyclone. I think it's a really good ship for like just team play.
Oh my god. Do you know what? That bit's interesting to me is the find it at Invictus. Does that mean released at Invictus? Because we're all expecting that, right? Right? Does that mean released at Invictus or that? It's really interesting. The first thing I'm going to say about that is love it or hate it. Oh my god, CIG are on fire with their ships at the moment. Just the way it's being developed inside and all that sort of stuff. I found what do you call it? I found one of the Starlancer, I think it was the Max, at another location. Oh my god, that was just incredible. Really, really good. Is it flyable in the PTU at the minute or not? Have we got that? I don't think it is, right? I haven't seen any videos on it. But yeah, it's a really, really interesting kind of interesting design. Don't think it is. No. But yeah, very, very good looking ship. I actually bought an upgrade for the Starlancer Tac to the Ironclad Assault, says Wouter. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, it's maybe Evo will get it this week. Yeah, possibly. Very possibly. It's been really interesting to kind of watch it all happen and you know, watch the evolution of the Starlancer series from the first two, and then we've got that thing. And then of course the next thing we'll get after that will be the build. In the Starlancer line, that is, not the next ship. That's not what I meant. But you know, the next ship in the MISC Starlancer line will be the build, which is you know, going to be reliant on things like drone gameplay and all that sort of stuff. It's probably, do you know what? This is probably a really good time to talk about it because we mentioned drones. I think drones might be fairly close. And I could be wrong, right? But there's a couple of things that have made me think this. The Apollo, for one, right? The medevac relies on drones, and we know they're working on the Apollo. Now, we might only get, you know, I don't know if the triage has got drones. If not, it might just be the triage that we're getting. But we know that the medevac certainly uses drones to recover down pilots, almost like a CSAR, as in letter C, SAR, Combat Search and Rescue ship. So when your pilots eject in the middle of combat, it's the Apollo medevacs that go and get them, and they use the drones to minimise the amount of times that they're like exposed to fire and stuff. Because you can send 2 drones out at once, and then the Apollo maybe is recovering a third, so you can get 3 pilots for the price of 1. The other thing that I'm thinking about is so Grey Cat remote, or the tactical vehicle that they were talking about. Because one of the things of that stands out is the shipbuilding UI the base building UI from Star Citizen is useful for so much more than base building. Right, when you look at it, the applications you can use, especially because it's rendered in engine, you're seeing what the engine is doing in real time. So many things you can do with this, like UAV-esque stuff, using drones to provide intel on the battlefield, to target stuff. There's so much fun you can have with that, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Easy to put in, just goes up and hovers. Yeah, exactly that. To be honest, if we need to get the Ironclad or the Perseus ship this Invictus, I'll be majorly disappointed. I haven't played for over 2 months now, just waiting until these ships release. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get them Invictus launch week. I really don't. And the only reason being is like they were only finishing, is it white box or grey box at the beginning of March. I don't think we're getting them. If we do, happy to be, but you know. I don't think they're coming that soon. I don't understand people that only play when new stuff comes out. Hey, it's one of those things. Like you gotta play for what interests you. Just playing for playing's sake because you feel like you should because of what you've got invested in it, or you know that you feel like you should be testing. It's a game, right? The minute your hobby, you stop enjoying it. It's no longer a hobby. It's a chore. So play the stuff that you want to play. Would be great to be able to ping points of interest or potential targets with drones. Exactly that. And I'm just going to very, very quickly find the... here we go, crafting your home. We're going to have some sound straight away because I didn't mute it. There we go. The great thing here is that it's in just the right place. So, this is the building UI, right? And I think I grabbed it very, very close to... there. I just knocked the volume down slightly. Do you know what? I'll kill the volume. But this is, you know, the base building stuff they showed off at CitizenCon last year, and yada yada yada. One of the things that was really interesting from this was, you know, this thing. So this is like the base construction cart, if you will. It's this, right? Because this is rendered in engine. If you look in a moment, you'll see players moving around, right? So you see the guy moving the box in and stuff. So this isn't a 3D representation not showing anything that's actually happening. This is just a different view of the same engine. So the idea that you could use this from a fixed point of view, from a drone system, to... And then, you know, when people have combat kit on, like the combat helmets that show the hit markers and stuff, you could also issue them orders and things. So you could say, hey, I found stuff over here, and, you know, kind of like an RTS, except instead of issuing it to NPC units, you're issuing it to players. And of course, they're not going to automatically go there. They can follow you or not. It's entirely up to them. But then you get the marker on the HUD, which is like a temporary ping marker, which is like, hey, I think there are bad guys up here. I think I've located the sniper up here. And if they can see the drone and shoot it down, they see the drone and shoot it down, and that's the end of the vehicle. But I'm not sure what else they're getting at with the idea of some sort of remote, you know, command vehicle, tactical vehicle. I forget the precise words they use. Someone will remind me in chat. But that's really interesting, right? So yeah, will be a cool way to introduce artillery, link up with the command vehicle to target areas for bombardment. Yeah, very possibly. I'm really not sure we're going to get artillery in this. I just think as a gameplay loop, it's dull. It's great for the person in it. For everyone else, it's crap. Right? There's no risk to using it. You know, there's no specific payoff. It's like, why would I take a tank if I could take artillery? Do you know what I mean? If I can just pound you without you even knowing I was ever there, I don't like the idea of artillery in this. If there is, there needs to be something that's You know, maybe you can take specific like ground attack missiles that people can laze or the drones can laze, but it removes the ability for you to take air-to-air missiles. That sort of stuff, absolutely, because you're sacrificing something for that. And also, if you've got line of sight to a target, the target will be able to see you if they know, you know, if they actually look. And the thing about lasers is anyone with the right sort of goggles can see the laze. It's just IR. So if you're lasing me and I switch to the right vision mode, I can see where the laser's coming from. And that's the payoff then. It's the, you know, that strikes me as a little bit more balanced. Wooter says, the problem is that it's nice they release new gameplay, but every content that is either cargo related is broken on day one. Mine online has been broken for 3 weeks after release. I mean, I haven't used it, so I'm not sure. Although, having said that, I've never seen it fire. So it might well be broken. Don't know. Cargo event was also broken. So the cargo event, for me, right up until the end, wasn't. What people say broke it was they stopped people's ability to buy it at one station, deliver it somewhere else. If you were, so I did it through RMC and construction materials salvage, no problem. Absolutely no problem. Other than stupid stuff elsewhere that affected it, like stuff not refueling, that didn't help. My ship got eaten by the hangar, that didn't help. But that wasn't specific to supply or die. That was specific to, well, that's just hangars and fuel, right? It does it all the time. So for me at least, and don't get me wrong, I might be wrong that that's not what you're referring to, but when I hear people talking about supply or die being broken, they seem to suggest that it's just, well, I couldn't go to this location, buy everything I wanted, and take it to that location. And the answer to that is, well, if only there was another way of doing it. Because I get it, not everyone's got a mining ship, not everyone's got a salvage ship, but they're not that expensive. With mission prices at the moment, it would not take you that long to be able to rent one for a couple of days and do it. You know, and I get it. People might not want to do that. That's fine. But that's not the same as the mission being broken. That's people deciding that they don't want to do the mission because they don't want to engage in those certain gameplay loops. And that's fine. You know, industrial players might not want to engage with the combat side of the game. So, Siege of Orison, Jump Town, Blockade Runner, Xeno Threat, and almost all of the pyro stuff, apart from supply or die. If they didn't want to engage with cargo, if they don't want to engage in combat, they've got no way of participating. So yeah, it's kind of swings or roundabouts for everyone really. Socially is one of those people. Yeah, you were supposed to get the materials yourself. I mean, they had it so that people could do it, and people were buying it out in bulk. I think they just didn't intend for that many people to do it that way. I think they were kind of seeing a lot of comments about, you know, everything is combat based. And like, hey, well, we give you an option to do this where you don't need to buy it. You can go and mine this stuff. You can go and salvage this stuff. They wouldn't have made so many options for you to do that. But even now, like to get the missions open, you've got to get Copian Horn, which means you've got to kill something. But it's NPC Boyds, right? But after that, if all you want to do is go and mine stuff, if all you want to do is go and you can gather, so it's like dung or the whatever it's called, ranta dung. And there's you can get the other cones and stuff. You can get Heart of the Woods, all that sort of stuff. No combat necessary. You just got to know where to find it. So that's quite interesting. Wooter says, I eventually did the salvage part to finish it, and afterwards never played event stuff again. My problem is they force players to do these events by FOMO stuff, a few cool skins for ships and a gun. Yeah, I mean, so the flip side is they don't do it. Right? So if they don't do it, you know, what they'll hear when 1.0 comes around is they'll go, oh, well, you know, we'll all go. Well, 1.0 is here, and I've been playing this game since 2017, and I've got nothing to show for it. In terms of everything that I could buy, everything that, you know, I can get on the subscriber store, all the ships that I've accrued over that time, someone can just go and buy them now. and then they're no different to me. So I've got nothing to show for that sort of stuff, because, you know, all the subscribers to Flare stuff that we pick up out through the missions, the stuff that we pick up through crates and all that sort of stuff, that's gone on day one of 1.0. Because we'll have a last wipe. It might be slightly prior to 1.0 for those of us that are already playing, but it's going to be gone. Every subscriber item that you haven't bought, that you've picked up through your missions, will be done. Complete wipe. It'll only be what you've bought. However, these rewards that we're getting that are being assigned to a hangar obviously stay with us. So it's kind of like, what do we want? Do we want stuff to show for all the time that we put in the game that we don't have to pay for, or do we not? Because the answer is FOMO, right? It is that's what it's going to be. And I get it. There is an element of playing it, but functionally, what is the difference between rewarding people for playing the gameplay loops that they want to play because they need them tested, and FOMO? What's the difference? Because my guess is the answer to that is there is no difference. At which point, you know, because let's face it, if 12 years or 12 months down the line they go, well, we wanted to fix stuff, but no one played the stuff we wanted them to play to fix it, but we didn't want to offer any rewards for it because we didn't want to be accused of FOMO, so now we've just got a broken game that we can't fix because we don't have enough data to deal with it. We're all going to be pissed. The answer from all of us will just can put it in the game and screw what people think. Like, they can't win on this front. It's there are so many viewpoints around it. Whatever one they do, other people are going to be like, no, that's not good enough. So, you know, I think, and it's the same thing with the idea of concierge rewards and everything else, right? The difference between a reward and incentive is whether or not you already have it. Yeah. So people will be like, it's not incentivized. It's just a reward for what I've already put in the game. And other people will be like, no, it's not. It's an incentive because I haven't spent the money. So they're incentivizing me spending more. It's like, they didn't have to give you a ship. They could just shit can the entire rewards program, shit can the whole Grand Admiral and all that sort of stuff, the whole concierge thing, and just let people spend money. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting. Napo Complex, good to see you, buddy. Yeah. I love wipes as so super gain so much so fast. Certainly at the moment. Stunner says, in my opinion, it's not about forcing us. It's a reward for us testing what they want us to test at any given moment. Richard Scarlett says, a lot of times I just want to enjoy the game without being harassed. Yep. Space Saga, they are meant to be having a year of fixing the game, but they've still given us some content, even if it's mainly being content. Yeah, and this is the thing, right? Is what's really interesting is all the content they have is using systems they've already inputted, apart from the Hatheror mining laser. But even then, I mean, they've had those mining lasers as an arena commander for ages, right? So that's not really new. The way that we're using it is new. The fact that we can use it is new, but the fact that at the end of that it's just a mining thing, not massively different. So that's been interesting. So yeah. So I'd just like to a toggle where I can decide whether I want to PvP, PvE, but that will never happen. Yeah, I think they're discovering that might be quite tough, right? For those that don't know, ages ago, they talked about the idea of a PvP slider. And I mean, like the idea of being just like how much do you want to encounter other players, and you just dragged it. How that works in real life, I have no idea. I mean, with dynamic server meshing, maybe that's it. Maybe there's a way they can do that, but if they do, it's voodoo far beyond like what I think they're capable, or what I think they would be capable of. But yeah. Wood says, it's not that I hate the game, but it gets stale with Till Zero stuff being the only thing. I'm currently waiting for are either ships or gameplay like Captain Baby. 100%. Yeah, exactly that. No, I don't think I'm certainly not accusing you of hating the game, Wood. It's not that at all. I get it, like 100%. If all you do is you come in and you test the new stuff for a little bit in the PTU, you don't even make it to live, and you go, okay, not enough here to keep me going, I'm going to bugger off and do something else until the next patch. Mate, perfect. Like, it's a game. No one has to play it for any length of time. Play what you enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. That sort of stuff, right? What's been quite fun is with a lot of the missions that have been up recently, you don't even need to be part of it. You could have other people hand stuff in and you could still get the points. So you can even jump in and do that. And I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have a problem with, like, you know, if you wanted to join the Friday night shenanigans and stuff and we did stuff, I would have no problem with someone coming in and going, oh, are you guys doing that? Do you mind if I just jump in and get the credit? Because I don't want to do it, but I'd like to have the flair stuff. You know, that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Rich Scott, not to fun, but in my opinion, that would ruin Star Citizen. So that's the PvP, PvE thing. Yeah, this is interesting. So there's loads of games that have the same sort of conversation. It's, you know, Escape from Tarkov has this about PvE only servers, or the PvE only game mode. Rare's had this with Sea of Thieves about theirs, and so on and so on and so on. You know, for me, there is that excitement and that anticipation that comes with there's another player here and I have no idea who they are or what their intentions are. I like that extra element of risk. But I get it. You know, I completely get it. I've always been a PvE player, so socially, who's played in PvP servers. For me, PvP spices up the experience, exactly. Napo Complex says, it seems a damn shame that they won't make the effort to save the accounts that have been testing them for free. New players at 1.0 can moan, but they didn't do the legwork for testing. Yeah, exactly that. You know, and this is why I think they're having all these things now where we can earn rewards in-game by doing these events and getting all the stuff, and it's going to be things that, you know, a lot of this stuff won't reappear. We're being told. Whether it is or not is another matter. But we're being told it won't reappear. So yeah. Being in a safe Star Citizen universe seems odd to me. Says socially. Scott says, it depends on your point of view or what you want out of the game. Exactly. That's why I like things like the Vandal mask or the Berserker helmet, because you can't buy it. Yeah, and we can go and have a look at a little bit later on when I turn the camera off and just play the game for a bit. We can go and have a look. I found one of the Berserker helmets, and you're right, Space. It looks a little bit like the Sutton Hoo old style helmet. I've got a fan there because it's being warm. Can you see that? You see it just appear in the background every so often. There's a fan there to blow over my shoulder because the window's over there. So, yeah, that's what you're seeing in the background. All right, it's just a bit weird. I'll hide it next time so it's not so distracting. So yeah, Sloss says, no, if they can just get the battery slots working right, well, yes, quite. Wooter says, it's an incentive, true, but the gameplay has been in-game for years now. What's keeping them from actually fixing it? Which bit's that, mate? Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm trying to read up and see which bit we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, and this is what this year is for, hopefully. You know, I've said that a couple of things that they need to be able to do is they need to have all the old missions in and the new stuff. They need to be able to make it so that when we hand stuff in, it actually recognises it. There's nothing worse than going through all the rigmarole of doing stuff in game and then it doesn't recognise it. So that needs to happen. You know, making the whole introducing new minables and that sort of stuff is great, but surely at the same time they need to ensure that when you find something mineable, it's actually mineable and it works. And I'm thinking back to, and this is a long time ago, I haven't played mining in a while for just this reason. I remember going through asteroid fields and you'd find these rocks and you'd go after them and be like, yeah, great. And you get to them and you'd be like, oh, it's one of these. And then either you wouldn't be able to scan it or you'd go to break it apart and nothing, it wouldn't even register that it was there. So you'd see it on scanners and stuff, but actually you couldn't interact with it at all. It wasn't breaking out. And I'm not talking about what happens when you don't have a mining head powerful enough to deal with it. It just did not recognise it at all. That is annoying enough that it stops people doing stuff. And I can say that categorically because it stopped me from doing it. So what I had as a mining ship is now a vulture, because that seems to have worked a lot better recently than anything else. Space Saga says they still have loads of assets in-game, ground bases and derelict mining bases they can flesh out for additional content. 100%. And you know, this is what's really interesting, is the amount of scope of what they can do with, like, the derelict outposts and the underground facilities. If they mucked around with those underground facilities more, that would be great. I feel like the biggest missed opportunity they have in the entire game is the distribution centers. They brought those in. It was like, hey, this is like dungeon level content. You're going to need multiple players to do this. There's whole things and nothing. Like, I can't remember the last time I even went to one. So yeah, there's so much there they can do. You know, they were talking about underground sections to it, the lift going down, and it's just stopped. There's nothing else been said about it. So it'll be really interesting to see what they're doing there. Oh, Walter says, okay, so the bit that needs fixing is cargo gameplay has been broken since cargo elevators. I can't actually finish a single hull C cargo mission because the time counter messes it up. There are so many issues with bunkers with enemies falling through the ground. Yeah, so, I mean, I've been quite lucky. So the underground facilities in Stanton, the UGFs there, they seem to have been working really well. The bug I encounter most often are the invincible enemies, the ones you just unload everything into them and they just keep coming. I think I've had a couple either in the ground or like inside a wall. That's happened a couple times. Hey Tuck, it's good to see you, mate. Love you too, dude. Yeah, looking good. Locked in for 4.1.1. Good. I'm glad you're excited about it, mate. Me too. That's interesting. That's where we're headed with this. So yeah. Yeah, so the cargo stuff is a pain in the ass. So one of the things that I found at the moment as I struggled to hand in the Copian Horns and the Marok Gems, turns out that what you need to do, are you ready for this? You put them in a container, you send it down in the cargo elevator, because it doesn't recognize it. You then open the container in the cargo elevator, drag it out to bring it back up in the cargo elevator separately, and then you send it down again, because if you just drop it onto the cargo elevator, it doesn't recognize that it's there. And it doesn't recognize it in a container either. So that's the fun that I've been having today. That's why I haven't done that many messages, but I've spent a lot of time doing it. So 100% accept all of that. That's hopefully part of what they're going to fix. And that comes back to what I was saying about they have to make it so the missions that you and I do in the game are things that actually complete and actually, you know, at least reward you for the level of effort. They recognize the level of effort you put in and all that sort of stuff. Even if they only recognize part of it, which is the, hey, you did the mission, here's the money. Not the huge amount of faffing around to work around all the known bugs and stuff. But it has to at least do that. Otherwise, you know, it's like, hey game, I did the thing, I did the stuff, I went to the place, I fought the guys, and nothing. That's breaking the basics of a game. Is gameplay is, you know, you do something, there's a reward for it. You know, you win, you get a reward, you do what you need to, there's a reward. You know, it really didn't do it with that, did it? So, you know, there's that. So yeah. I love it when a cargo elevator eats my mission items like Wicklow eats a burrito, says Stunner. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Isn't the guy that made cargo elevators gone from CIG? So there's a couple people that have gone that were in charge of pretty key things. Like the whole air traffic control. Anyone remember that? Anyone remember approach lanes and escape lanes and all that sort of stuff? They went. I know they did. I don't know about cargo elevators, but possibly. I think this is part of what they're doing is building up. So they don't just have, you know, if someone leaves, they don't take the knowledge with them, which is why that disappeared for a while. They also brought in 8 random detail bases last year, made it on Star Citizen Live, but did nothing with them. Yep, 100%. Put it in the local inventory at Wicklow, then call it up at the cargo lift and send it back down. Yeah, exactly that. SC seems to need a spell books for rituals needed to play the game. Yeah, I mean... the level of... I'm just going to turn that down because it keeps peeking out a couple times. The level of, like, the workarounds are more involved than what it takes to play some games, I've noticed. So that's been really interesting. Yeah. Wooter says, that's just my problem with Star Citizen. I need to have a guide each patch with a list of workarounds, hence I haven't played with it. Mate, I get it, 100%. 100%. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be anything serious, right? If a game's narking you off, just stop playing it. Just leave it alone. You know, there's no point. Like I said, it just becomes a... it just becomes something that is a pain in the ass to achieve, right? It becomes a chore. Your hobby has become a chore. There's no point. There really is no point. I got the window open, so you might see a couple of daddy long legs and stuff flying around. That's what I was watching go past then. It was like, ugh. At least it didn't land on me, because I would have freaked out and screamed like a 5-year-old girl. Richard Scarlett says, drinkers, the big problem for new players is we depend on the cargo on Merc Station missions, and they are balked. Yeah, so, I mean, again, I've got to say that, you know, I've been quite lucky, and I've not seen that, so I would say that's likely intermittent, right? And I agree. Again, I've got to go back to, you know, they need to make the mission system work. We need the old small delivery box missions back. We need the other missions that never made it back in. Things like the PI Wanted mission and all that sort of stuff. That stuff needs to reappear. 100%. I guess what I'm kind of getting at with the video and the title and everything else is they're doing it. Right? Because those sorts of things knock me off so much I stop playing. Right? When that happens in a mission, and I'm just going to move the camera around slightly. There we go. When that happens in a mission, and I'm knocked off, like, it breaks the immersion so badly for me that I'm going, oh, I was on the middle of the groove of doing stuff, and now I just want to go play something else, right? And so 100%, like, I agree, I couldn't agree more. The hope is here that one of the things that doesn't seem like it's going to change, I know they put the tutorial stuff in, is one of the things that's become really obvious to me is I think that CIG are always going to rely on us established players to get new players into the game, to show them what's what, to show them the ropes. They're going to rely on the content creators and the streaming community to do that sort of stuff. They're going to rely on orgs and the guide system. What is the guide system other than offloading tutorials to the players, right? So, you know, that's going to be what we do. And the other thing I like about that, well, I say other thing, I'm not saying that like I like it. What I do like about it is that I never have so much fun in this game as I do when I'm showing other players what it's about and what you can do and how it works and what they've got planned for it, right? I've never had that much fun in all my... That fan just keeps like... It's like... Oh, fan. Ooh. I feel like the music's for the fan now. We'll just do the music. You gonna show me the fan? There you go. My arm's gonna start to ache. Sorry, yeah. He's my biggest fan. True in so many ways. Other than Dell. Dell's actually my biggest fan. But that's it. Sorry, I have no idea where that came from. I'm just being a bit strange. That's probably the most internet thing I think I've ever done on this channel. So that was fun. It's a magic fan. Fan music, exactly that. OnlyFans, yeah, that's it. There's my OnlyFans. It's not true, actually, because I've got another one, so sorry. It's not even my OnlyFan. Yeah, no, I've often said that if I end up doing OnlyFans, I'm going to do it slightly differently. You're going to pay me to keep my clothes on, because no one needs to see that. So yeah, I'm just going to pour myself a top up here, because I'm having a lot of fun chatting with you guys and getting the interaction. And do you know what I love about this is, you know, people can disagree. I'm watching you guys talk and chat, and there's obviously some differing viewpoints. And I absolutely love the fact that people say, sorry if I've offended. No, you haven't offended me. That's exactly what I was set out to do with this channel. You know, to have that place for people to come and chat and disagree and still be mates at the end of it. Awesome. Wooter says, I might seem as disenchanted with CIG, I just don't want it to fail or keep falling on the supposed bug fixes. So far I haven't seen many quality of life bug fixes like the transit refactor. Where is the patch? Yes, there's a lot of big stuff that's still coming. So they need to fix freight elevators, they need to fix hangars, they need to fix the transit system. Elevators, I'll just take elevators. Twice today I've not been able to get out of the habs. One on the UK, one on the EU servers, one on the US servers. And I've had to backspace on a station to get out, because then you respawn at the hab with all your kit. Also at the medical centre with all your kit. Just that stuff, still very frustrating. Get it? You know, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination we're there yet. But for a load of little things that I can't really put my finger on, I'm really enjoying it. Because I'm not just doing Hatheror. I'm now flying around in a C1, hunting Marek and Copian and flying around like that. I'm really enjoying stuff like that. For Wuta, no, I get it, man. Like, we all love the game. That doesn't mean that we can't be frustrated with it. That doesn't mean that we can't go, do you know what, I'm not doing it until they fix that. Like, those are two separate things. You can love it and be really frustrated with it. I wouldn't be doing this and, you know, trying to create videos about it and spending all this time. I joke about this with people. If I spent all the time that I spent doing channel and content and reading up on stuff and discussing it with people, if I just worked at Burger King for that length of time, I'd have so much more money than I do now. But I don't, because I love this. Love interacting with you guys. The game is just, it's going to be next level. I'm going to pin my colours to that mast. It's going to be next level. It's going to be an experience like nowhere else in gaming. And I genuinely think some of the things that CIG are going to be able to really make money on are the engine and selling some of the tech behind it. Once they've got their own game out, I know they said they weren't going to sell Star Engine, right? That's for now, as far as I'm concerned. I think what we're going to see is, because can you imagine the media if they sold Star Engine and someone else released a game before they did on their own engine? Right? Because they went, well, we don't need to add any of the extra stuff. We're just going to use the tech as it is now to create something really cool. Right? The media would not see it like that. The media would just be like, even companies who don't own Star Engine are releasing games faster than CIG. You get it, right? I think once the game's out, there is no barrier to them selling Star Engine. Absolutely none. Can you imagine, and I'm just going to stick with space games for a second, can you imagine, in no particular order, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5, The Expanse, any other space game on this engine, made as a AAA, quadruple A title? Can you just imagine how fucking cool that is? Right? There's so much stuff that they could put on this. And of course, what would be great is those games could be created for a fraction of the cost, because the majority of the cost here is the fact that they are building what they require from scratch. Right? Exactly that. I'm not going to lie socially. The idea, as I was talking about that, the idea of Star Wars, I am, for want of a better phrase, I'm fully erect right now at the idea of this having a Star Wars version. Can you imagine galaxies remade in Star Wars, in Star Citizen, using the engine? How cool would that be? Right? So yeah. Yeah, like there's so many options for this once it goes live. There's the server meshing tech that doesn't just have to apply to games. The server meshing tech can apply to other things as well, I'm pretty sure. I'm no network specialist, but I'm pretty sure that even the principles could apply elsewhere. Right? Is just crazy. And I think it does actually exist in some other areas. But oh my god, can you imagine applying network server principles to other games? Can you imagine if Warcraft or something like that, EVE, could apply network server principles? So server meshing so they don't have to do the slowdown when there's huge battles. I want a Millennium Falcon, right? All that sort of stuff. Yeah, so all that sort of stuff will hopefully come. The new stuff this year, forget it. If we get something, great. But in terms of gameplay loops, in terms of things like Resource Network and all that sort of stuff, what we're expecting this year, the refactor of transit, the refactor of cargo, the refactor of hangars and freight elevators, all that stuff needs fixing really badly. The mission system still needs a lot of work. Bringing the other missions back into the game. You know, even really simple things like needing underground facility, also the UGFs, the underground facilities, to spawn loot boxes reliably. Changing up the loot tables, making the loot much more dynamic than it is at the moment, because it seems to be still very, very basic. All of that sort of stuff is all within the current systems that we have, so that's not off the table at all for this year. That's where we're going to go, and I'm really hoping that at the end of the year we're going to be talking about how much we're playing it compared to the beginning of the year, and how excited we are that they have a much more stable platform to start bringing the other stuff in. We might see some iteration of Fire or Network, Resource Network, given how close they were before the end of the year. We might see drones, just because no one's going to argue about some new thing being added like that. New locations like Hatheror on that is all within the confines of what we have already. Idris definitely saw that. Cody 100%. Lillian, good to see you. I Lillian, I don't know whether to call you Lillian or Lillian or whatever it is. Let me know. Hopefully I've not offended, but yes. Welcome in anyway. Makimus, good to see you, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. If no Idris, we riot. Agree. Well, we'll get to see it 100%. Will we get to actually have it? Don't know. They've always said that it would be linked to Squadron 42. It's an L, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It's the glasses. I'm gonna blame the fan. Keeps appearing. OnlyFans. It's a spoiler. It's a stealth thing. Here we go. Ready? Are you gonna show me the fan again? It's okay if I do that. There you go. OnlyFan. Ha. You also got a view more up my nose than anyone ever needed or had the right to see. So sorry about that. People would bitch about wasted space in the Falcon. Where does the cargo go? Yeah, absolutely that. So you want a Perseus, says L. Yeah. L Lillian? L Lillian? I'm going to go with L Lillian. Let's go with that. That's what you've written. That's what I'll say. I just want a really good X-Wing fighter. Like, Scorpius? Question mark? Medical's in an abysmal state. Sorry, COG, making an event where people are dying more without meaningful medical gameplay. Medical emergency leads to a mining mission. Well, do you know what? That's a good point. No argument there. We talked about medical a few times recently because it's, you know, the idea of it's either medbed or constantly drugging yourself being the two options seems quite limited. You know, yeah, there's a lot more they could do. I tell you what was really interesting was going to the when you go to like one of the pharmacies in the stations, if you look at the medical supplies behind, not the stuff we have in game, all the other stuff, that a lot of it looks like it's just set dressing, right? They're not one, like, it's got a load of stuff stacked up, but it's obvious that it's not separate assets. It's one asset that looks like, for example, lots of heat packs stacked on top of each other. That to me indicates that, at least for now, that heat pack is nothing. Have a look at the defibrillators and tell me what you think. Have a look at the defibrillators in the thingy and tell me what you think. There's a rack of them on the walls. Tell me if you think that that's one asset or if they're individual assets. And if they're individual assets, why? Why does it look like the defibrillator in the mounting looks entirely separate to the rest of the defibrillator? Why would you spend the time to do that if they weren't going to be separate at some point in the future? So again, I'm no oracle. I have no direct line to CIG, though I wish I did. But I just noticed it today, and if you want, we can go and have a look a little bit later on in the stream. The only thing is I've got to turn the camera off and stop talking about what we put in the title of the video. So we'll have a look. But yeah, hopefully that fixes it. The Squadron 42 thing is just silly. COG also said backing for a ship would make us the first to be able to fly it. Yeah, so I know a lot of people have a problem with the Idris and the Squadron 42 thing, where they basically said they didn't want to release it before Squadron 42 because of the risk of spoilers. Let me know if that music's too loud. Hopefully it's not. But if it is, I'm just going to knock it down ever so slightly. But yeah, I agree with that 100%. It is a bit silly. Makimu says, I just want this amazing tech so I can live in my house, look after my 4 cows, and go to the spaceport in my Aurora. Wait, are we talking real cows? Or are you abducting quasi-grazers and in your Aurora, Mackie? I'm morbidly interested. Soshi says, medical is what I want to do in the game and CIG has murdered it. Yeah, it's at a point where it works, but it's obviously not its own gameplay loop. It is something I need to do as part of other gameplay loops. So, I get shot, I can heal myself. I get a tear injury, I can manage it for a short while, longer while off the med gun, because your blood drug level doesn't go anywhere near as high. But yes, it is absolutely not a standalone loop, and I'm really hoping they get it to the point where it is. So yeah, Millennium Falcon isn't really a cargo ship, it's a smuggling ship. Oh my god, here we go, here's the fight, let's go. Millennium Falcon fight in chat, go. Just be nice to each other. Potato, potato, exactly. So yeah, CIG's even made emergency defibs and trauma backpacks in game. They have. There's so much gear they never use other than as set dressing, like in Siege of Origin. Yeah, absolutely. And all this tells me is that the team that are making the assets are nowhere. They're busy, but they have more time to engage in, like, hey, we're going to look at medical stuff. We can create more stuff for the time being than, just, oh my god, like a lot of the feature teams are, like, do this and then on to the next thing and on to the next thing, and they have no scope to look at anything else. Like, oh god, 2 seconds. I gotta stop doing that because it's that I don't think you heard that. That was louder in my headset because of the monitor thing. But yeah, that's my recording for work. I was recording a Mayday call here using all the systems because then I could use all the effects to make it sound like more on the radio. I could use all the squelch and stuff. At work, we just don't have the ability to do that. So yeah, that was good fun. But apologies if you suddenly hear me making Mayday or pan calls. I keep meaning to remove it off the playlist and then completely forget until the next time I stream and I don't have time. Or maybe on my mind this time. If they re-release Siege of Origin that is stable, I may try it. Guys, if they release Siege of Origin again anytime soon, remember to come back, be on Discord with us. We'll go and run it as a group. Siege of Origin, if you're even remotely able to enjoy first-person shooters, Siege of Origin is awesome. As a group, it's even better. It's so good. Not worrying about rushing. Just go and do the objectives on the platform. Siege is chef's kiss. Really is good. Now that the AI are a lot more responsive, now that they're a lot more aggressive, and now that they're a little bit scarier than they were before, Siege is just going to be great. It's going to be so good. Yeah, we'll set some events up to do that. Might even try and stream it or record it, but absolutely do some events because primarily playing the game is what we're here for, right? Atlas Medic now just walking around carrying stretchers and stuff. Release on the P now, the Idris, and hold the other off for spoilers socially. Yeah, I would rather not have the Idris yet, says Notorious, mainly because the systems and gameplay that make a ship like the Idris worth it aren't there yet. And you, sir, are not wrong. It's... There's a lot of, a lot of the big ships, I feel like, kind of, you know, the Polaris suffers from it slightly in that a lot of the stuff that should make that really interesting is not quite there yet. Whilst we're talking about him, to him, not with him, Notorious is proprietor of the awesome Amidships channel. Some crazy success for the very first videos that he did. Go and check him out. Link is on YouTube there. Guy's an absolute legend. Limited ability to make time to make videos at the minute because he's a very busy man, young family and new career. But yeah, absolutely go check him out. The stuff is awesome. Very much worth it. Hooked from the first episode. Oh, it's the only fan music again. No? Yes? Yeah. Don't know why I'm doing this again. I've obviously clicked the wrong thing, haven't I? Mental. There you go. Cody says, I think the real medical gameplay will come when people have doctor specialties that allow them to heal rare diseases and you have to find specific player-run hospitals to get cured. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if they're going to go that far into it. It would be cool. I just think there needs to be a little bit more, right? Let's say, and this is the example I always use, you go hours out of the way to go and, you know, so you go in quantum to somewhere that's really remote. Then you go and jump on you land and then you jump on a hover bike and you go off to somewhere else that's really remote, that's inaccessible to ships. And then you get a tier 2 leg. Like, what's your options? Continue to drug yourself up. Or a tier 1 leg even. You know, continue to drug yourself up. And if you're not in a medical ship, or a ship with medical facilities, you need to go back. Which is great when you're on a Carrack or some of the long-range explorers. But the Aquila is a long-range explorer too. And it doesn't have medical facilities. So you either have to sacrifice a lot of your range because you give over a huge amount of the supply space in the hold to having a nurser, and even that's not going to help tier 2 or tier 1, right? Or you just accept that, we're 10 minutes into what we're here to do, we now got to go back to base to sort that out. Maybe there's a place in between, like you can splint it. So now you can, the pain doesn't need managed, the symptoms don't need managed, but maybe you can't sprint, or maybe you're walking much slower. Same with arms, you know, much increased ADS time and all that sort of stuff. But you can still function, and you're not constantly having to blood drug yourself. The big one, for me, is being shot in the head. Because you have that blur and, like, it's the suggestion of, like, a blood clot, like, floating around on the screen. That stuff... the problem with that is playing with that for a couple of hours can actually be really damaging to eyesight and give people headaches and all sorts. So they got to be really careful, especially with sound and stuff as well. It really muck people up. So yeah, they've got to find some other way of fixing that, right? By going like, hey, you're 2.5 hours flight time from a medical facility that isn't going to shoot you on sight. Meh. Yeah, so they got to be careful with that stuff. Siege will be a lot better. Absolutely, Christian. It really will. Hey, Shitty Phase. Not releasing the address because spoilers are beyond silly at this point. It's a ship. It gives away no story details. Don't disagree. Don't disagree at all. We definitely need to jump in with you guys when Siege happens. Always loves running it. Sloth, you'd be welcome. Of course, my friend. It would be great. They should release the address, says L. Lillian, because we need it tested properly. Not everything based on stolen ones. There is that too. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm not going to go and do the PTU stuff, but I'm looking forward to seeing it when it comes to live. That's going to be good fun. Idris P is not actually that much bigger than a Polaris. No, it's bigger, but it's deceptively big because you it's deceptively small because you see the through hangar and you see the 3 Gladius sat in there, but actually that's the entire length of the ship. That's it at its length, at its longest point. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Cody Fox says the big ship gameplay won't be prioritized by CNT until they put the big ships in the game. Until then, they'll always have an excuse not to prioritize it. Yeah, so I mean, it's not so much an excuse, it's just the way it was. But before we had server meshing, like, the servers just couldn't cope. They could not deal. It was rough. You know, because you've got one server and an ever increasing entity count. And let's face it, it's still a problem now. It's why we don't have things like, you know, it's why the longer the servers are on, the buggier they become. Because, you know, it's tracking all these entities, all the ships that people leave at outposts, all the, you know, the stuff that gets left around, the ammo, the loot that doesn't get cleared up, the dropped guns and all that sort of stuff is all adding to the load of the server. It still has to track that stuff. And if you're in its streaming container, it's streamed. It's in. So that, you know, being able to break the game up into those server areas has helped. It's not the whole thing, but they would have been beyond bonkers if they were looking at putting that stuff in too much before server meshing. So yeah. Wooter says, we really need crafting in game SAP, to be honest. We need a different way to get coolers, power supplies, shields, etc., like the grade A stuff that you can only find in contested zones. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure they're going to take everything away. I don't know. Let us make absolutely everything. Some of it's still going to be looted. One of the examples of this is they were talking about computer blades, right? The ones that we'll be able to use at some point in the future to control turrets. They've talked about you know, there are going to be some that are super rare, like, you know, for whatever reason they've stopped making them, company's gone bust, technology was lost, whatever it was, that these things are only ever going to be found and traded. They're never going to be built by us. They're never going to be built, you know, you're never going to buy them in game. They're going to be super rare loot. And I have no problem with that. So I think it was going to be the same things for components, in that, you know, they've already said that there are lots of the component stuff will need the crafting to get to the absolute, like, class 5 or class 3, whatever limit they have. So crafting's certainly going to have a point to it. Badgers even does a little bit of voice acting in episode 4. I did. I played a junior officer, I think. That was cool. If you remember the Q&A 3 of the Endeavour, they stated what they want for medical gameplay when they showed the Endeavour Hope ship. There's meant to be gameplay on the ship for the medical crew. 100%. Yeah. I see this much more like the like refinery gameplay. You know, when they bring the Expanse in and stuff, they talked about you're going to monitor the process, and obviously the more you do in that, the better it becomes. I can give you an example from Armour. Right, so Armour 3 has a mod for it called Ace Medical, right? And this is why Armour's incredible, because Armour's basically, the game is a platform for mods. It's like Minecraft or Skyrim, right? It just becomes so much more enhanced. When you heal someone in the base game, you run up to them as a medic and it says treat person, and you hit space or you click F, or you click the middle mouse button. And it treats them, and you see a little wheel go around, and you see the animation happen, and they're treated. When you use Ace Medical, you run up to them and you inspect them, and it has all of the limbs, the body, and the head, and then it will tell you what the wound is, and you've got to know which bandage is best. If you don't use the right style of bandage, there are 4 of them, by the way, then the chances of you dealing with that are bad. There's tourniquets you can put on that stops them bleeding out. There's 4 different types of drug that you use to help them out, and you need to know what all of them do. It doesn't tell you. There's no auto button like there is on the back of a med pen, right? When they go down, there's a timer starts to them being dead. However, if you CPR them, you extend the timer, and anyone can do CPR. So you can have, like, while the squad's under fire and the medic's trying to get to them, you've got teammates jumping up and down on someone, keeping them alive. And that's really cool, because what happens in it is exactly what happens in normal combat, which is casualties massively affect a unit's combat effectiveness, because not only do you lose the individual who's been wounded, you can lose 1 or 2 people at least to deal with that casualty. So shooting 1 person nets you a 3-gun loss, because that person is down and the other 2 are trying to bandage them, hold them down, you know, apply morphine, whatever else, you've lost 3 guns out of the fight. So, you know, and that's why when you see any of the films, if you've watched things like Lone Survivor, you'll hear Mark Wahlberg say no medicine in a gunfight. That's what he means. You win the fight, then you deal with the casualties. If the casualties snuff it in the meantime, that's it. So that sort of stuff would be really, really cool. Illegal blades from the Xi'an should be a thing. Pre-AI ban blades says socially confused. Yeah, exactly that. I get worried about people buying into a chicken or egg problem. X isn't the game because the game isn't ready for it. Then we don't need to make the game ready for it because X isn't even in the game. Yeah, I mean, server meshing was the key thing, right? And we saw this through and through. And now what we've seen is we've seen the flip side of that. So we've seen servers pre-meshing that were running at a frame or less per second. And these were the guys where you could just run up to all of them, you could knife them all, and they would never react. And the reason for that is the server was dealing with so much. It had a backlog of commands that it was dealing with. By breaking the game down into those smaller areas, it's got less to deal with individually. Makes it so much easier. You know, it's like COD, right? Is there's a server limit past which they just can't go, right? It just doesn't happen. So nothing after that was going to get put in. I mean, clearly they were working on it before it came in because we got server meshing with the Polaris. So they had been working on it. It's just, again, you know, we've had resource network stuff coming in, which spans everything. It's small ships, it's medium ships, it's big ships. It's the whole shebang. So they've got a lot of stuff going. You know, server meshing really was. You know, I said this when I did the video on the first time I saw Pyro. The big problem for me with server meshing was if it didn't go in, this game doesn't exist. And I think people missed that, right? Because we waited for it for so long. When it came in, the base response was, "Oh, thank hell for that. About bloody time. Only like 4 years late." If server meshing hadn't worked, Star Citizen does not work as a concept. They just can't do it. Does not exist. It's unmanageable as a game. Servers cannot deal. One server cannot run these systems as far as they're going to go. Because bearing in mind, right, what have we got at the moment? We've got FPS combat, we've got ship combat, very, very basically. We've got mining, part of it, right? Most of mining, to be fair. We've got salvage, parts of it. We don't have tank salvage. We kind of have, I mean, you can bootleg component salvage by nicking it out of other people's ships, but it's not really in the NPC space yet. We don't have the drone stuff for salvage. We don't have the gas cloud mining, or the gas cloud gathering. We don't have any of the stuff for the other gameplay loops. You know, the data running, the exploration, electronic warfare, all of that stuff adding just huge increase in entity count. And as we found out, when they brought Siege of Origin and the second Xeno threat in, they had to lower the player count during Xeno threat because the servers couldn't cope. If that is an indication that the servers were maxed out, like that there's no convincing anyone. I'm not saying you need convincing coding. That's not what I'm saying. But this one is so fundamentally underpinning the whole game. The fact that they achieved it. Like I remember talking, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this. I remember talking to the info runners, and one of them said that they looked around and a couple people that they knew, content creators and longtime fans of the game, when we saw that demo of server meshing first working with the different areas, all in different color boxes, I can go pull it up if we want. When they first saw that, a few of them had tears in their eyes. Because it had always been in the back of their minds that it might not work. It was always in the back of their mind that this was... It felt to them at some points like it was this pink uniform that we were chasing, right? and it just didn't. It didn't materialize. It's yeah, or that it wouldn't materialize. That it was going to be this big idea of this is what we want and this is what we're hoping for, but actually we were never really going to get it, and as a result the whole game was just going to not appear. So there's that. Sorry, it was a really long answer to that question, and I kind of lost my way a couple times because I've gone and clicked on a couple things. But I'm just going to go and see if I can find that bit that we were looking at. Someone's probably going to find it before me, but it was rather an impressive a rather impressive demo. If anyone's got it and they can throw it in Discord, then please do. But yeah, basically it's that's what it was. It was this incredible diary to show that. It was this incredible demo. Sorry, diary. I've just said that because I've read diary off the screen. It's really is something. So yeah, now, like we said, now that that's in, a lot of the excuses, exactly like you're talking about, have gone, and they just need to get on with it now. The first part of that they've obviously decided is we now need a static, stable base to now start adding things in reliably, which is what they're going for, and we'll see by, you know, they said for the year ahead, so let's give them the 12 months till March next year. Let's see how they do. But like I said, they've made enough small subtle changes at the moment that it's pulled me back into the game in a big way. I was still playing here, there, and everywhere, but this is big. So yeah. On arrival in the hospital, says Lillian, it's up to the Endeavour's crew to employ their expertise to try and save the patient, with the ultimate outcome contributing to their medical reputation. That's kind of cool. How old is that? This is one of the things that I found that was really sad, is that the Endeavour, they don't think the Endeavour's going to be in for 1.0. I hope they surprise us by putting it in. I sincerely hope the turret computer blades are only for remote turrets and not manned. That's the understanding at the moment, Shady Face, is that it's the remote stuff. The idea of bladed Perseus main turrets is scary. Yeah. So we had to worry big time about casualties, including non-combat casualties like snake bites. We need to be able to blow heli clearings in the jungle. Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for your service, mate. Yeah, absolutely that. So yeah, I hope so, says Cody. Yeah, 100%. I feel like CIG will start backfilling things like gas mining, refining for the MISC Starlancer, and now the game is actually working. Yeah, I mean they've got some way to go, I think, to convince everyone that it's actually there, but we're certainly moving in the right direction. Server meshing is fundamental, and it works absolutely. It was a great moment, but they immediately overpromised on it. As a fellow software architect, I knew it would be impossible to convert all this spaghetti code to it in a year, let alone months. Yeah, 100%. So the overpromise was they said that they were transferring everything over, and as we found out, things like the mission system, the transit system, were not going to be easy to port over, and we're still feeling that now. Elements of the mission system missing. And this is separate from like missions not completing. There's entire parts of it that are missing that we had before that we don't have anymore. Hey, Daily Noob, good to see you, my friend. How you doing? Did you have a good stream? How was it? I'm just gonna go and grab Daily Noob's channel stuff. Daily Noob is in the house, everybody. Daily Noob stretches over on Stream, or even streams over on Twitch. Does some great work over there. Really chill streams, really cool gameplay, finds really interesting stuff to do, and is a absolute demon at the low fly stuff. So yeah, go check him out. Really cool place to stream, and go and do some community games with him. Checked out some PTU stuff. Have you done the Idris yet, Daddy? Have you done the Idris stuff? Because I'd be interested to hear what you think. Chris, so yeah, so all that stuff being converted over, overpromised again, but you know, hopefully we get it by the end of this year. There's a lot of potential for this to be an amazing year as long as they deliver some of the stuff that they really have to do. They really have the power to deliver now. I think the Idris is just one example of that. Yeah, so you know, certainly getting everything running in terms of the mission systems, the roof factor, and just making it stable enough so that they can finally start to kick in. All the stuff they said, hey, we're putting the systems in place so things work better. Really hoping that that comes across and that we start to see that happen. I'm just going to knock that volume down because it's doing the Arc Corp thing again. So yeah. Hey, Pilgrim, good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. Yeah, Nick's won a few days ago before they changed it to Polaris, or did you mean the tour? Oh, so yes, the tour. Yes. Not so much the stuff you've been stealing. We won't talk about that. Hey, Sol, good to see you, mate. Long time no see, buddy. Hope you're doing well. So yeah. Lots of stuff. Long story short, what we've been talking about to the people who've just come in is the fact that through a bunch of really small changes that I can't really put my finger on, the game has pulled me back in, and I am excited to play it so much more than normal. And been playing pretty much all weekend, which has been exciting and fun and everything else. So yeah, it's been good. Burger Pop says, hey, do you think they'll change the old texture on the Idris? Yes, 100%. I would hope for when we actually get it in game as a product for us. But if not, it certainly needs doing, and it must happen at some point. Otherwise we riot, right? Pilgrim says, it's nice to explore the Idris at the moment on PTU. It's finally a no-fly zone. Oh, okay, because yeah, it was getting ganked, wasn't it? It was getting hammered by players. Yeah. I'm not saying that on stream, Can, because I'll get in trouble. The tour is dope, says Daily Noob. I'm keen to be able to spawn mine so I don't have to keep stealing them. I know, right? It's just I just want my large military ship. Why do I have to keep stealing them from people? Also, like they said on the gameplay thing, who in the UAE is just allowing these things to be stolen on a regular basis. These were supposed to be rare military ships, and everybody owns one. The Arlington gang's got them. Xeno Threat's got them. Like, everyone's just rocking up with an Idris. But yeah, you know, and then there's this crazy Aussie who gets hold of them as well. The biggest win that I've seen over the last few months, says Cody, is that the elevators are finally working consistently. Yeah, they let me down today. But yes, other than that, they seem to be a lot better. So that's good news. Sol, been missing you guys. Man, you're always welcome. You know that. Yeah, we've had some fun with the Hatheror stuff, Sol. So that's been good fun. I think we're about ready. That's my OnlyFans, by the way. Just keeps appearing behind me when I move. There you go. It's like spoiler. But yeah, so we've been having some fun with the Hatheror stuff. I think we can go and try and fire the laser before 1.1 comes in, 4.1.1 comes in, because everyone seems to be testing the PU, so there's minimal resistance. Ta-da. That's not an invitation, noob, by the way. I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm not surprised the space criminals managed to take them, lol. UE needs to up security on their vessels. You're not wrong, sir. You are not wrong. CIG is biased against players stealing Idrises, I get. No fun allowed. Well, yeah, I mean, we managed to do it, I think, on one of ours, and I'll have to find the video, because I've moved all my videos since I moved over to this. But yeah, managed to go in, EVA in through the front while it was still active, and we basically got the Idris to focus on our Polaris. And then basically the Polaris then put me between the Idris and it, and I basically just had to make sure I didn't get railgunned in the process. So as it was chasing them, I kind of went in through the front door, and almost pulled off taking the thing over and getting out all right. But because it was the Slicer one, I think, or the one in the Prelude to Pyro, the AI just kept respawning, and I got taken out in the end. I just couldn't survive that many bad guys. I did record part of it, but I used OBS, and it starts to affect frame rate after a while, because I don't have a separate stream thing. So I was like, ugh. So I put GeForce Experience back on just to do the recording of that, because that seems to be less resource intensive. So if something like that happens again in the future, I will capture it and put it on a video or whatever. So yeah. No stealing, yeah, come after you legally. No, not stealing anything, my friend. Shady Face, was a prototype Galaxy stolen at IE a couple years back? I don't know, I don't think it's ever been... I don't think the Galaxy's ever been in as a model, is it? It's always been like that stuff always tends to be the wired diagram stuff, or the hollow models. We'll say, though, boarding through the airlocks on the side makes for the most intense fight to the bridge. I bet. Absolutely. I usually shoot one of the doors open and fly the arrow inside and shoot my way through to the bridge. Yeah, absolutely that. Yeah, the fight up to the bridge was interesting, especially when they kept respawning behind you. So you'd run down the stairs away from the guys that you were fighting to reload to come back up at them, only to run into the guys that respawned behind you. So it was just like, lots of moments of just running around hoping you could dodge the bullets long enough to reload. You know, of course, now sprint stops you reloading as well, so yeah, it was a little bit tense. Wooter says, anyway, I'm finishing up my glass of whiskey here, drinking some good Aberfeldy single malt. Cheers, my friend. Off to bed, of course, after brushing my teeth. Mate, thank you very much for being here, Wooter. Good to talk to you, bud. And yeah, you take it easy, my friend. Glad you're enjoying your chill evening. The Idris needs a few turrets in its hangar to fend off borders. Fixed size ones, something like that. Oh, sorry, as in, yeah. Remote size ones is what I meant to say. Yeah, absolutely. Take care, Wooter. All the best, mate. Biggest ship I've been able to spawn was the Javelin and the PTU. It was so much fun. Suddenly they fixed it. Okay. The Stolen Galaxy was part of the storyline for the last time we saw Jax McCleary. Interesting. Okay, I don't remember that bit, but that's fine, right? It's been a while since the Jax McCleary storyline. I just love the fact that dude's coming back. So they got his voice actor on a while back, and I think they basically said he's coming back at some point. So that'll be really cool. Yeah, so it's been a really interesting week. Looking forward to seeing a little bit more of what we've got coming. You know, for IEE, Jesus, Invictus, and what that's going to bring for us to see. And like I say, I'm on leave the week that happens, so if we want to do some live streams and stuff, I can be around for that as well, and do some, you know, kind of reactions to what's being launched and run around the expo halls maybe, all that sort of stuff. Isn't there supposed to be a monthly report this week? Very, very possibly, Cody. I can have a quick look if we like. But yeah, I think we're due. I've fallen out a little bit of kind of the habit of checking that sort of stuff, and I should really get back into it. There's not sometimes with the what's happening this week in Star Citizen, they talk a little bit about what's coming next week as well. So yeah, we'll see. He took off with the Galaxy prototype, and that's why we still don't have it in game. Yeah, they've basically gone, right, if you're going to try and steal it, that's it. Obviously, elsewhere in the world, we've had the Bar Citizen stuff. So there's one in Seoul and the one in America. Can't remember where. Someone help me. But yeah, there was the Bar Citizen stuff. So Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, was the other one. So yeah, there's been some interesting stuff. Yeah. It's been a good week. Yeah, that's right. Star stuff, exactly that. I feel like if we get a monthly report this week, we'll learn a ton about what's about to hit live. Yeah, I'm really hoping that at some point we get some sort of indication as to the bugs they're working on and like the sort of issues they've cracked and they feel like they've cracked. Because at the moment, I don't feel like they said something about we were going to get a new sort of roadmap that was going to be all about the bugs and things they wanted to crash. They said that in that huge 3-hour live stream. It was in Jared's first spiel in the first like 10 minutes. We've obviously not got that, but, you know, because I first said when the Hatheror thing came out, it was like, they still feel like they're focusing on new stuff. I mean, I kind of still feel a little like that, but you know, the few things they've managed to fix by now, I'm starting to feel them because I'm not anywhere near as annoyed by the game. Or maybe that's just a mood change. I don't know. I may try to steal the Javelin during the Invictus flight tour. Was an invisible box around the pilot last time, so it was impossible to get to the seat. I honestly can't see them changing that because of you, noob. This is entirely you, my friend. It's just like, we'd love to, but then again, noob, so we can't. Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure catching up with you all. It is, of course, coming up to the end of the night. Unfortunately, despite the fact it's a bank holiday in the UK, I do have to work tomorrow. So I don't have the luxury of just pushing on until whatever o'clock in the morning to do some streaming stuff. But we shall so. My buddy went to Nashville, said he had a great time, said Sargalaxia. I'm really pleased. Some great giveaways. I am very tempted to try and get to the one in June because that's the Saturday night. The Sunday, I'm due in Cardiff, so I'm going to be travelling anyway. So I'm very tempted to try and get up to Manchester and then travel back down to Cardiff for the weekend. Which, you know, if I'm there, I will at least take some video and stuff. And if anyone else is going to be there, it would be great to see you. Would be really good to kind of catch up with people. But yeah, we shall see, huh? But yeah, it's been fun playing. You know where the Discord thing is. It's down in the fold. You know that we do our shenanigans on every Friday, 9 PM UK time. You are more than welcome to join for that stuff as well. And look out for DWGP on the orgs list. If you want someone to just come and chill out, no training, no requirements, just as long as you're in Discord. And in your application, include your Discord username so I know who you are, otherwise it will get rejected, just so that, you know, we can coordinate and stuff. But yeah, looking forward to another week playing Star Citizen, and then we'll chat about it next week. Maybe we'll even be talking about the new features in 4.11. I did it again, didn't I? You've been watching Drinkers and Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. See you soon.